Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the hidden spiritual mechanics of the Crysticism 360 system, and we're doing it through a really gripping, incredibly grounded parable. We're going to pull back the curtain on those invisible influences that quietly hold us back, and more importantly, we're going to discover the exact protocols you need to awaken your own inner light.
So let me start by asking you a kind of unsettling question. Are your thoughts truly your own, or are you actually being steered? I mean, think about those sudden, completely irrational bursts of anger, or those intense, out-of-nowhere cravings you get sometimes. What if they aren't totally yours? What if they are actually being engineered by unseen influences operating just beneath your radar?
So, how do we actually protect ourselves here? Well, the ultimate goal of the system is activating something called your Crystic Conscience. It's literally an inner awareness that, when awakened, completely flips a switch. You stop walking through life as easy prey, and you start standing as a mystic warrior, fully capable of batting away those unseen tempters that are designed to just drain your potential.
To really grasp how these tempters operate, we need to meet two very different spirits. First, there's Diesel. He's just drifting in this gray, static void, desperate for even a tiny rush of life. And then enter Pent. Older, cultured, wearing a sharp-tailored suit, and highly predatory. He offers Diesel this dark bargain, basically a masterclass in occupying a living body so he can take whatever he wants. But, as you can guess, the price is incredibly steep.
Pent's whole approach is just terrifyingly clinical. He flat out tells Diesel, you must learn to take what you want. Look at their light. He teaches Diesel to completely ignore the physical stuff, the muscles, the trendy contemporary clothes, and look purely at their auras. They are out there hunting for fading inner light. They want energetic armor with cracks in it. They are hunting for pure vulnerability.
And that is exactly how they find Spike. Spike is a frustrated 20-something guy, literally standing there holding a crumpled test paper, feeling totally defeated. His aura is dull. He's emotionally completely out of harmony, which, severely weakens his energy shield. But the real kicker? The front door swinging wide open? It's a sudden, intense burst of anger over his bad grade. That rage literally drops his defenses to zero, giving Diesel the absolute perfect opening to just lunge right in.
But here's the crazy part. Diesel doesn't get some luxurious penthouse suite up in Spike's brain, not at all. He's shoved all the way down into this tiny, cramped, throbbing little pocket in Spike's right foot. And to his absolute shock, it is packed. He's sharing this tiny physical space with a whole bunch of other parasitic spirits, all basically taking turns yanking Spike around like a marionette. And Spike? He doesn't suspect a single thing.
Now, this brings us to the exact mechanics of the hijack, a place called the pre-thought chambers. Have you ever had a completely random, terrible idea just pop into your head out of nowhere, and you're like, where did that come from? Well, these are the hidden spaces within the mind where impulses form way before your conscious brain even registers them. Pent explains that if you can plant a seed right here, the host will eventually hatch the idea and proudly claim, hey, I thought of this.
So, Pent breaks down this complete 4-step manipulation playbook. Step 1, you find that weak aura. Step 2, occupy some physical space, even if it's literally just a foot. Step 3, mimic the host's conscience to quietly plant seeds right into those pre-thought chambers. And Step 4, inflate the ego. You just feed their absolute weakest cravings so they do all the heavy lifting for you, completely convinced that it's all their own free will.
So how does this actually play out in real time? Well, Diesel zeroes in on Spike's absolute weakest spot, his envy. Spike looks at the varsity football kicker, Rev, and just feels incredibly inadequate. So Diesel capitalizes on this. He floods Spike's pre-thought chambers with these intoxicating delusions of grandeur. We're talking vivid images of cheering crowds and game-winning kicks, hooking directly into this deep, desperate desire for greatness that Spike just badly wants to believe. Pent's instruction right here is honestly chilling. He says, the fantasy is the engine, keep feeding it. And man, it works. Driven by this really brittle, artificial ego, Spike's behavior totally changes in the real world. He's this guy out on the streets obsessively kicking trash, soda cans, rocks, just totally lost in a highlight reel playing only in his head. He even starts talking to his right foot at night. He is completely drowning in Diesel's illusion.
And the timeline of this delusion escalates so quickly. It kicks off on day 1 with this arrogant, totally unearned challenge to the actual varsity kicker, Rev, which, by the way, ends with Spike kicking a soda can that just wraps around his shoe like a sad, dented crown.
Even though people are actively laughing at him, the delusion somehow holds up through a whole midweek of practicing on garbage. But the real trap, that is set for Saturday, the high-stakes, very public football tryouts. So, Saturday arrives, tryout day. The field is serene, beautifully sunlit. Inside Spike's head, he's basically soaring over the Himalayas in a hot air balloon made of pure ego. He runs up to the actual football, pouring literally every ounce of that borrowed confidence into his leg. And then, the sudden void. Right in the absolute middle of Spike's swing, Pent orders Diesel to abandon ship. Diesel just yanks all his energy out instantly, leaving Spike completely empty, mid-kick. Pent's cold calculation in this exact moment is just staggering. He looks at Diesel and says, "We both know he will never be a good kicker. It's time to leave." And boom, the horrific truth drops. This entire months-long setup, it was never ever about helping Spike succeed. It was literally just a disposable training exercise engineered to teach Diesel how to artificially inflate an ego and then utterly, devastatingly destroy it. The visceral reality of that failure on the field is brutal. Without Diesel's energetic support propping him up, all of Spike's old insecurities rush right back in. He lowers his aim in blind rage, and instead of hitting the ball, his foot slams straight into the rock-hard ground. Bones literally crack. He completely shatters his ankle. And that physical injury is a perfect mirror of his internal state. Just a violently burst bubble of pride, leaving him writhing in pain and a total laughingstock.
The aftermath of this crash is an absolute implosion. First, you have the immediate agonizing public humiliation as everyone just jeers at him. Spike's inner world completely collapses into these incredibly deep feelings of betrayal and toxic anger. And right here is where the true, terrifying nature of a parasite is revealed. Because into that newly hollowed-out space where Spike's pride used to be, Pent swoops right in. He replaces that emptiness with a freezing promise of revenge, feeding directly on Spike's newly cemented hatred.
And that brings us to Pent's terrifying core rule for manipulation. He says, never allow your hosting soul to feel a genuine victory. Keep them desperate. It's really that simple and that insidious. If a soul feels true victory or actual peace, they grow stronger. By keeping them perpetually chasing impossible fantasies and constantly failing, these tempters ensure their hosts stay weak, vulnerable, and incredibly easy to control.
But right here, the narrative takes a sharp, massive pivot. Diesel is watching Spike's agonizing ruin from the astral plane, and instead of feeling powerful or victorious, he is just hit with this overwhelming, crushing guilt. As Pent tries to push him to move on and find a brand new, vulnerable target, Diesel actually experiences an awakening. He sees the cruelty for what it is, flat out rejects the path of the parasite, and literally risks his own existence to say no.
This is a radical transformation. On one side, you have that parasitic ego mindset. You take what you want, you inflate the host, you abandon them, and you keep them desperate. But Diesel chooses the path of the awakened spirit. He chooses to serve rather than feed, to build and heal, to protect that mystic light. He realizes, I'm not destined to be a monster. I can actually choose the path of genuine soul health.
Diesel's declaration of independence is just incredibly powerful. Breaking completely free of Pent's spell, his form transforms into this radiant gold. He vows, "I will find Spike. I will teach him how to actually kick. I'll serve, not feed." He actively chooses to clean up the terrible mess he made, returning to the etheric world for a fresh start as a sponsoring friend. He completely shatters the cycle of the tempter. So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to turn the lens back to you with a thought directly inspired by Diesel's awakening. Look inward. What is the actual state of your soul's health right now? And honestly, are your cravings truly your own? The next time you feel a totally uncharacteristic burst of anger or some desperate grandiose fantasy, just pause. Challenge those unseen influences. Activate your own Crystic Conscience and ask yourself, who is actually steering the ship?